I was tasting soup in a rented test kitchen when my phone buzzed. Stainless counters, steam, a quiet Tuesday. The message glowed like a bruise. Keeping it small this year, just Liam's family. No hello, no love mom, just that. I'm Kai, 33, architect turned community builder. I restore old buildings and make them breathe again. My brother Liam is 36 and the family headline. He runs our dad's auto lot back in Kansas. Married his college crush. 2 kids, a dog that wears bandanas for pictures. If a lawnmower coughed near him, my parents would call the local news. I stared at the text until the screen dimmed. Then I put the spoon down. I didn't reply. I didn't drive home to explain myself. I did one thing that saved me more than I knew at the time. I drove to the theater. Not a movie theater, my theater. The Lark. A 1926 brick shell I rebuilt in Santa Fe. Gold leaf ceiling, velvet seats, a stage that hums when you walk it. It used to be a storage unit for broken arcade machines. Now it's an arts hub with a cafe and a tiny library crammed with playbills. I keep the brass exit sign over the back door because I like the reminder. I unlock the front door and let the afternoon air roll in. Popcorn oil and sawdust still live in the walls. I sat on the edge of the stage and watched the dust swirl in the projector's light. That text was simple, but it carried a message I knew by heart. You're the extra chair. We'll call if someone cancels. It wasn't new. The script started when we were kids in Wichita. Liam scored a B and Mom taped it to the fridge. I brought home a statewide design award and Dad asked if I'd tried sports. Holidays meant I cooked, I cleaned, I drove Grandma to church, and I always somehow ended up at the folding table next to the coat rack. I built my life anyway. I paid my own loans. I drew up plans at a coffee shop that smelled like burnt cinnamon. By 30, I had my license, 2 restorations, and a non-profit that kept teenagers off the streets with woodshop classes. My parents called it cute. Liam sold a used Escalade for over book value, and they toasted him with champagne. Keeping it small this year. The words tasted like tin. I pictured the long table at my parents' house, the good china, the grassy smell of Auntie's cilantro salad. My chair would be missing and no one would mention it. It would be as if I had never existed. I pocketed my phone and walked the rows. Seat 12, C squeaks. I keep meaning to fix it. I reached the balcony and looked down on the stage. An idea rose up steady as heat. If they were keeping it small, I'd make room elsewhere. Not a pity party, a new table. My first call was to Maureen, my cousin on Dad's side. She's the one who answers the hard questions without flinching, the validator in our family, even if she'd laugh at that title. Did you get the text I asked? Yep, me too. And Grandma, she's livid. A pause. What are you thinking? Lights on at the Lark, I said. Open house. Big pots of pozole. Free seats for anyone who's been squeezed out. You serious? Very. Maureen was quiet for a breath. I'll bring tamales and folding tables. Send me a list. I texted Jessa next. She's my best friend and the anchor I lean on when the room spins. She once drove 6 hours to hand-deliver me a warm jacket because I forget weather exists. She wrote back fast. Chef I know can do family-style trays. I'll run front of house. Name the night. I chose the same night my parents were keeping it small. Not to compete. To stop bleeding. To pour into the people who'd poured into me when no one else did. The response was instant. Aunt Bao sent heart emojis shaped like lanterns. Uncle Thomas offered a jazz trio. A neighbor, Mrs. Ortega, said she had extra space heaters if we needed them for the outdoor patio. By sundown, I had 30 RSVPs and a grocery list that read like a poem, hominy limes, cinnamon sticks, masa. Still, something about Mom's text pulsed under my ribs. Why now? Why a hard limit after decades of open invites? My parents host like it's a sport. More bodies is more love in their math. Cutting the extended family made no sense. I walked backstage and checked the emergency kit. Tape, spare bulbs, a tiny fix for everything. I breathed, counted to 8, and did what I do when a wall doesn't align with the old drawings I inspected. I scrolled through the family thread. Photos from last year. Liam holding a carving knife like he won a trophy. Me and the kitchen flour on my shirt, invisible in plain sight. I opened my one-on-one with Mom. Year after year of proud of you champ messages for Liam. From me, the logistics of rides and food and repairs. I typed, all good, love you. I didn't send it, I deleted it. I put the phone face down and walked to the projection booth. The room is small, lined with notes from volunteers and kids who learned their first chords on our stage. A card from Grandma is taped above the lens. In shaky blue ink, she once wrote, "You gave this city a living room." The memory cracked something soft and stubborn in me. I was done begging for a chair at a table set to ignore me. I had a whole room of chairs. I had a living room big enough for the cousins who always got cut from the photo. Marin called back, "Heads up, Dad says he heard Liam is doing a presentation that night. Private." He didn't know what that meant. "A slideshow," I asked. "Maybe. Or, I don't know." Her voice dropped. Kai Grandma heard words like papers and notary when Mom talked to the pastor last week. Papers. Notary. My scalp prickled. Grandma's house is the last piece of land that ties us to the block our great-grandparents built on. It's in her name. We've kept it up together. I pay for the roof and paint. Liam mows once a month and takes a selfie. I felt the room tilt. I sat on the floor of the booth. It's gouged by years of spilled soda and heavy reels. I counted again. 8 in, 8 out. No panicking. Ask questions. Gather facts. The stuff I tell my teen woodshop crew when a project splits. Jessa arrived at the theater with a notebook and a grin. "Show me where you want stations," she said, already mapping the flow with painter's tape. I pointed out the lobby, the balcony, the patio under the string lights. She listened, then pressed a hand to my shoulder. "Whatever this is really about," she said, "we'll stand with you." I nodded, "Thanks." We set up long tables. We tested the lights. We dragged out the portable dance floor because if there's music, there should be movement. The lark warmed up like a body stretching awake. My phone buzzed again. A photo from Marin, Mom's dining room table, a red folder. The cover stamped in gold durable power of attorney. Under it was a handwritten note, Sunday, after dinner. I looked out at the empty seats and felt the truth change shape. This wasn't about a menu. It wasn't about who brings dessert. It was about signatures. About control, about a house that wasn't theirs to move like a chess piece. I stood center stage and spoke into the dark. "We're done being quiet." Then I pulled out my planner. I wrote in block letters, "Lights on Friday doors at 6. Under that, a second line, call attorney. Before I tell you what we found in that red folder, tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to build your own table because someone locked you out of theirs." I see you dot invitations flew faster than I could track them. Marin posted a photo of her kitchen masa, dust bright husks a mountain of tamales, and tagged it, "Lights on." Jessa sketched station maps on butcher paper and taped them to the lobby doors. The lark woke up. You could feel it in the floorboards. But the red folder kept pulsing in my mind like a hazard light. I was sorting donated coats when my phone lit up unknown number. I let it roll to voicemail. It buzzed again. Same number. I wiped dust on my jeans and answered. A woman's voice, careful and clipped. "Hi, I'm Ruth from Prairie Notary Services, calling to confirm Sunday 7 p.m. in-home notarization for Judith and Robert Stanton, durable power of attorney healthcare directives, and if ready, transfer on death deed for 114 Maple. Please make sure the principal has valid ID. 2 witnesses required. They said the pastor can be one. If questions, call me back." She hung up. I stood very still. 114 Maple is Grandma's address. The house with the grapefruit tree that never bore grapefruit, and the porch swing that whines like a violin. Transfer on death deed, not a sales pitch, a decision. I called back before my fear found words. Ruth sounded relieved. "Oh, good. We didn't have your direct number. Your mother said you were hard to reach." "I'm Kai," I said. "I'm not hard to reach. Who set this up?" "Your mother. She said you'd be out of town." Another paper shuffle. "Sunday 7, correct?" The radiator ticked in the quiet. "Who is the principal?" "Your grandmother. She'll designate an agent for medical and financial decisions. Common with elders." "Agent," I repeated. "They picked one already." "I'm not looped on family choices," she said. "I just stamp and verify." "Is a Sunday night normal? Legal? Yes. Common sense depends on the family." "Thank you, Ruth." I hung up and let the silence press against me. The lark hummed in the background, kids drumming on the edge of the stage, the espresso machine coughing, Jessa whistling something warm. Ordinary sounds, they made the words louder. "Transfer on death deed. Agent. Pastor as witness. Keep it small." I dialed Grandma. She picked up on the second ring breathy, like she'd rushed. "Baby, are you eating?" I swallowed, always. "You okay?" Your mother keeps bringing casseroles, she said. She hovers like a storm cloud. I told her to take some to church. She said Sunday will be busy. What Sunday? A little signing, she said, as if it were a haircut. Your mother says it's for doctor visits, so nobody bothers me with forms. Who told you that? She did. And the pastor. He said I should get affairs tidy. Your granddad liked tidy. Do you want it? She went quiet. I heard the clock in her kitchen old brass face slow tick. I want peace, she said at last. But I like to read before I sign. Then wait for me, I said. I'll come Saturday. We'll read everything together. You have your event. I can be 2 places, I said. Let me be one of them. She breathed out a small laugh. You always were quick, Kai. Bring that sage tea I like. I'll bring 2 boxes. When I hung up, Jessa was already in the doorway reading my face, bad. They're moving papers on Sunday. Grandma's house, POA, TOD. She stepped closer. Okay, we plan. We pulled chairs to the lobby table. Marin joined on video from her kitchen, cheeks flushed, hands busy. I told them everything. Ruth's exact words, Grandma's calm voice, the pastor's name echoing off a legal phrase. It sounded like a riddle with a clock attached. Marin frowned. Pastor as witness is convenient. Also a way to make no feel like sacrilege, Jessa said. The red folder I added. They're not hiding it. They're setting the stage. Why the rush, Maureen asked. Why keeping it small now? I thought back and watched a pattern click into place, frame by frame. The year Dad talked Grandma into co-signing a loan just for a month. Thanksgiving was only cousins. The summer Liam needed to borrow the title to her old truck for an appraisal. The 4th of July grill out somehow wasn't happening. The day I got my first renovation permit approved and wanted to celebrate, Mom insisted on lunch, just us 4. Every time money moved, the rooms got smaller. Looking back, I said they always shrink the room when there's a signature they want. Marin nodded slowly. And they always call it love. Jessa squeezed my knee. Not this time. We made a list. It was clean and quiet, the kind you write when your hands want to shake. Call an elder law attorney. Pull county records for 114 Maple. Get Grandma's ID current. Arrange a witness who won't be bullied. Keep everything gentle. No ambushes, no shouting. No. Jessa said, I know someone, Avery. They do pro bono elder law on the side. Tough kind allergic to drama. Want an intro? Yes. She texted, and within minutes, my phone rang. Avery's voice was warm sandpaper. Start at the top. Don't edit. I told them the dates, the folder, the notary. They listened without interrupting, then asked 3 questions that landed hard. Has your grandmother named an agent before? Is there any medical diagnosis they can wave around? Do you have proof she understands her choices today? She's sharp, I said. She does crosswords in ink. The only thing she misplaces is her knitting needle. Good, Avery said. Then we use time, not panic. If she wants a POA, we can draft a limited one that names who she chooses, not who's loudest. Transfer on death deed is hers to decide, but she should understand what it does. It skips probate but locks beneficiaries unless she changes it later. If they rush, slow the table. You don't have to accuse anyone. You can ask for time. How? Witnesses can be busy, Avery said dryly. IDs can need updating. A neighbor can drop in with cake. Soft resistance buys daylight. I exhaled. Can you read any documents if I get photos? Send them, they said. And bring your grandmother to a calm place to talk. A kitchen is better than a dining room with company. After the call, Jessa leaned back. We have a path. Do we tell my parents we know? Not yet, Marin said. If they're doing this honest, they won't mind a review. If they're doing it fast, warning them only makes them faster. I nodded and felt the first solid rung under my feet. That night, the lark filled with humming bodies. The smell of pozole and roasted chiles rolled out the doors and down the block. Kids chased each other through a web of coats. A jazz trio warmed the room with a slow blue version of Moon River. People kept arriving with foil-covered trays and awkward gifts, a stack of board games, a bag of tea lights, a box of mismatched mugs. I worked the room. Hug, ladle, laugh, repeat. Every person left out somewhere else found a chair here. The brass exit sign glowed like a joke we were all in on now. If you can't find the door, they promised you make one. Halfway through the night, an older woman tugged my sleeve. Tight bun, eyes that missed nothing. I'm Teresa, she said, Marin's neighbor. I notarized documents for 30 years. I heard a whisper about Sunday. I didn't ask who whispered. That wasn't the point. We're getting counsel, I said. We'll keep it calm. I'm glad, she said. Signings in living rooms can be fine. They can also be a show. People lean on elders with words like easy and just formal. The trick is not the stamp. It's the pause before the pen hits paper. If your grandmother wants help understanding, call me. I won't stamp a thing. I'll sit and translate. The witnesses, I asked. Neutral is best. Not a beneficiary. Not the pastor if the pastor can't say wait to your mother. Thank you. She patted my arm. Make sure your grandmother eats first. Blood sugar is a witness too. I laughed despite myself. Will do. As I turned, seat 12C squeaked under someone shifting. It cut through the music like a bird. I've put off fixing it for months because I like the reminder every room has a small truth if you're listening. Gran called after dessert. I stepped into the alley, cool air tunneling through my coat. You feeding half the city? She asked, smiling in her voice. At least. I like that, she said. The house sounds loud. Your mother hates loud when she's planning something. Then we'll stay loud, I said. She sighed. Kai, if I say no on Sunday, will that make things worse? It might make Sunday worse, I said, honest. But not your life. Your life gets to be your choice. If you want me to help you choose, I will. If you want her, I'll step back. I'm not fighting you, I'm guarding the pause. She was quiet for a long moment. Guard it, baby. Right then, Liam texted for the first time in months. No greeting, no punctuation. Mom says don't make drama. Old me would have explained. New me put the phone away. Back inside, I caught Jess's eye and tilted my head toward the stage. She nodded. The jazz trio made space, and I stepped up to the mic. My hands were steady. Thank you for coming, I said. Some of us were told there wasn't room this year. Turns out there is. Turns out there always was if we built it. Eat, dance, take a coat if you need one. Bring a neighbor next time. The Lark is your living room. Applause rose like heat. Someone started clapping in time. The floorboards answered. For a few minutes, the worry loosened its grip. After cleanup, the empty theater glowed the way only empty theaters can, like a held breath. Jessa and I sat on the edge of the stage with paper cups of tea. Marin FaceTimed from her porch, wrapped in a blanket hair lit by string lights. We were tired in a good way. Jessa said, tomorrow we fix seat 12C. And buy Grandma 3 kinds of pie, Moran added. Bribe is a tool. I'm bringing sage tea, I said, and a scanner app. We laughed. It felt like a pact. On my way home, the city was cold and alert. The red folder image kept sharpening. I thought about Dad's silver money clip, always too full, the way he tapped it against the table when he wanted to speed a conversation. I thought about the year I was 15, holding a flashlight while he borrowed a title from Grandma's desk just to check the VIN. He winked at me like we shared a secret. We didn't. He taught me a skill anyway. Watch the hands, not the mouth. Not, I slept hard and dreamless. Morning came with a bruise of sunrise over the Sangre de Cristo range. I brewed coffee, packed the car tea scanner, a folder of blank paper, a fresh pen that writes dark. Jessa handed me a bag at the door. Sandwiches, clementines, chocolate. You'll forget to eat, she said. Don't. On the highway north, the phone rang. Avery. 2 things they said. 1, I checked the county's online index. No filings yet on 114 Maple in the last 60 days. Good. 2, your grandmother's ID expires in 8 weeks. If someone tries to argue she needed to sign now because of ID issues, it's false. You have time. Thank you, I said, relief like warm air. Anything else? Yes. Bring a simple letter. Large print. It says I, Opal Stanton, request time to review documents with counsel of my choosing. I do not consent to sign today. If she wants to sign that, great. If she wants to sign nothing, also great. But practice the words with her so they're easy in her mouth. Got it. I turned onto the last road before Grandma's street. The houses are small and tidy. Plastic deer on one lawn, a flag 2 sizes too big on another, maple trees bare and bright against the winter sky. I slowed at 114. The porch swing moved in the wind, singing its thin song. Mom's SUV sat out front. I parked around the corner and texted Marin, I'm here. Deep breaths, she replied, guard the pause. I walked up the path with the tea and knocked. Mom opened the door in a sweater I recognized from every holiday photo. Her smile was stretched thin. Kai, she said, I wish you'd called first. I did, I said. Last night, I called Grandma. Her gaze skated past me to the street. We're in the middle of tea, Grandma called from the kitchen. My boy brought tea. I stepped inside. The house smelled like lemon oil and something sweet. The red folder sat on the dining table like a guest. A pen rested on top, aligned perfectly with the table edge. Dad appeared with 2 mugs. We were going to go through some options before Sunday, so your grandmother isn't confused. Great, I said, setting the tea down. Then let's all get clear. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I put the kettle on and the cups out and the pie on the counter. I took the pen off the folder and clipped it to my shirt. Small things, steady hands. Marin's text pinged again. Remember, time is a tool. I looked at Grandma. She looked back, eyes, glass-bright mouth, firm. We'll read together, she said. We sat at the table. The pastor would come later. The notary would come Sunday. The folder waited fat and red like a heart under a light. And that was the moment I realized the first real reveal wouldn't come from a signature. It would come from what wasn't in that folder, and from a stranger who walked in carrying a casserole and the missing piece, Dot. We sat at Grandma's table with the red folder between us. The room was bright lemon oil on the wood, the old clock talking to us in slow ticks. I unclipped the pen from the cover and put it in my shirt pocket. Small move, clear signal. We'd read before anything clicked. Mom folded her hands like a teacher, waiting for silence. Dad stood behind her, thumbs in his belt loops. Liam wasn't there yet. The pastor was on his way later, Mom said, like you'd say the weather was coming. Tea first, Grandma said. My kettle sings better when it's not ignored. I poured. We sat. I opened the folder. The first document was a durable power of attorney. I read each line out loud. Plain voice, no drama. It named my mother as agent, Liam as backup, effective immediately, not springing. No limit on scope, no guardrails, no note about accounting, no language about acting with the principal's best interest beyond the generic one-liner attached to a freeware template. The signature line had a sticky flag already pointing to it. The next pages were healthcare directives, pre-checked boxes, full authority to make decisions circled, HIPAA release clipped in. The witness's line was blank, but someone had written Pastor H faintly in pencil on the margin like a rehearsal note. The deed form sat at the back. Transfer on death. Beneficiary typed in neat black letters Liam Stanton, no, and no mention of anyone else. A line for legal description left empty, waiting to be filled in later. No revocation of prior deeds attached. No cover letter from any attorney. No list of questions. Just smooth paths drawn straight to a pen. I flipped the last sheet and set the stack down. That was the reveal what wasn't there. No explanation, no read and acknowledge, no invitation to think. Grandma watched my face. Well, she asked. It's a lot, I said. We don't rush it. Mom gave me the smile she keeps for waiters who bring the wrong salad. Honey, this is standard. Everyone does this. It's simple. Then simple will survive being read, I said, and explained. In your own words, Mom, tell Grandma what each page does. Color climbed her neck. Dad cleared his throat. We already did this last night, he said. We don't need to perform it again. It's not a performance, I said. It's her house. It's her life. If it's right, it will still be right after tea and questions. The front door creaked. A draft washed the hall. Someone stepped in, balancing a casserole dish with both hands. Knock, knock. A woman in her 60s, gray streaks, denim jacket. A smile that let you know she didn't miss much. I'm Nora from 2 doors down. I brought green bean casserole because I heard Sunday might be busy. Mom stood startled. Nora, thank you, but Nora looked past her. Opal, you tell me to go and I will. Otherwise, I'm staying exactly long enough to say what I promised. Grandma's mouth quirked. Stay, you make good beans. Nora set the dish on the trivets like she owned the air. Then she pulled an old envelope from her tote, the kind that lives at the back of a drawer. It had a rubber band around it and a thin waterline like it had seen one spill too many. Your grandfather gave me this, she said, eyes on Grandma. Years ago. He said, give this to Opal, or to the one who fixes broken things if the room ever gets small and the papers ever come with a red folder. His exact words. I wrote them down. The room changed temperature. Mom's smile didn't move. Her hands did. She turned the casserole dish a 1/4 inch. I fix broken things, Grandma said, dry as toast, and the room feels small. Nora handed me the envelope. On the front, in my granddad's firm block letters, for when they say it's only paper. I looked at Grandma. She nodded once. I slid a butter knife under the flap and lifted it open. Inside were 3 items: a photocopy of a recorded beneficiary deed dated 5 years ago with the county stamp and page numbers. The beneficiaries were listed as Opal's grandchildren, Kai Stanton, and Marin Flores in equal shares. A second page, a signed letter in my granddad's hand, said he recorded the deed after he had a stroke scare. He wrote that Opal could change it if she wished, but wanted the default to be the 2 who show up to fix the leaky things and the lonely things. At the bottom, he had drawn an arrow and the words, "If someone pushes slow the table, ask Mr. Hart to read this. File hash L733. The third item was a safety deposit box key taped to an index card. On the card, bank name. Box number. Spare copies. No hurry unless someone makes some. Mom reached for the papers like they were on fire. I slid them to Grandma instead. She held the deed copy in both hands and read each line. Her jaw set, not angry, resolute. Dad recorded this, I said. If you never revoked it, it's still on file. A dozen small memories hit me at once. The year Grandma broke her wrist and I fixed her front steps. The day Marin and I patched a roof leak while Liam took a selfie holding a hammer that had never been swung. My granddad, watching us from the shade hands, folded that tired half-smile men wear when they are proud and scared at the same time. Dad folded his arms tighter. "Your grandfather did that when he wasn't well," he said. "He's scared easy. It's not binding, and it's not fair." Binding or not, I said, it exists. It matters. And fair starts with everyone knowing the truth. Mom sat down like her knees needed it. "This is why we kept it small," she said without hearing herself. "We didn't want a circus." Nora snorted. "Small rooms are where bad decisions get dressed up as kindness." Jessa texted just then. Her name lit the screen like a lifeline. I sent a photo of the deed copy to Avery with the note "found this." They called within minutes. I stepped into the hall to take it. Avery's voice was crisp. "That's a real recording stamp. That index code means it's in the public record from that date. Beneficiary deeds are effective at death, not before, and can be changed by the current owner. The existence of an old one doesn't stop a new one. But it does prove intent over time. And it buys you a very clean script." "What script?" "When the pastor arrives, ask him to read the 2 choices out loud. Change and no change. Ask him to affirm he's neutral. Then ask your grandmother to say in her own words what each choice does. If she looks to your mother for approval before she speaks, stop the process. That's pressure. If anyone says it's just paperwork, ask them to define just. If they can't stop. And if there's pushback, present the letter. An ancestor's voice can stop a train." I closed my eyes, relief washing warm and steady. "And the POA?" "The immediate language is a landmine," Avery said. "If your grandmother wants a POA draft, a limited springing one with specific tasks and accounting requirements, you're not fighting paper, you're protecting choice. The goal isn't to win, it's to keep her centered." "Understood." When I stepped back into the dining room, Nora was telling Grandma about a robin's nest that returns to her porch light every spring. It sounded like nothing and everything at once. Mom had her eyes on the tablecloth. Dad watched the door. "Mr. Hart?" Grandma asked. "Your granddad's old lawyer," Nora said. "He's retired, but he kept copies. He likes proper lines." "Do you know how to reach him?" I asked. Nora dug out her phone and scrolled. "I have his daughter's number. They live 3 streets over. Do you want me to?" The doorbell rang. 3 soft chimes. Mom stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. "That'll be Pastor," she said. "Perfect timing." "Kitchen," Grandma said. "We talk in the kitchen." Mom blinked. "The dining room is nicer," Kitchen, Grandma repeated. "My hands are louder there." We moved. The kitchen is small, bright, and honest. The good light lives there. You can't pretend in a kitchen. The pastor followed us in with a Bible under his arm and a careful smile. Mid-50s, clean shoes, hands practiced at baptisms and bake sales. "Opal," he said warmly, "always a joy." Pastor, Grandma said. "You came to witness? Witness well." He looked around at the faces and the papers and the envelope on the counter. His smile held. Barely. I saw him clock the casserole, the missing pen, the way I had spread the documents out so nothing was hiding under anything else. "We were going to do a quick run-through today," Mom said, lighter than air. "Sunday's the signing." "Before we start," I said, "we need to be clear. Are you a beneficiary of any bequests tied to this house or this signature?" He flinched just a hair. No, he said. Our church is always grateful for generosity, of course, but have you discussed a gift from this house with anyone here, I asked, calm, straight. He licked his lips. That would be a private matter. So that's a yes, Nora said. Not cruel, precise. Then you can't be a witness, I said softly. Not neutral. That's not a dig. It's protection for everyone. He glanced at Mom. She gave him the smallest shake of the head, a coded, "Please don't make this harder." He shifted his grip on the Bible like he wished it were thicker. Perhaps it's better if I pray and go, he said. Pray over the tea, Grandma said, then sit. You can listen as a friend. He did. The prayer was short, tidy, and nervous. We started with the deed. I put the old recorded copy and the new blank form side by side. I asked Grandma to explain in her own words what each one did. She did. Then I asked her to say what she wanted today. Not tomorrow, not next year, today. She took her time. She sipped tea. She looked at the window where the grapefruit tree scratched its thin branches against the glass like a pencil. I want no signatures today, she said at last. I want to read with someone who is paid to read. I want new papers written in words I can explain to a child without my throat going tight. If that takes a week, I have a week. If that takes a month, I have a month. If I die before then, the old paper will do what it does. And if I live long enough to change my mind, I'll change it when I'm ready. She looked at Mom. I do not want a room that makes my mouth dry. Silence. Thick. Honest. It rattled the silverware. Mom's face flickered through 5 expressions fast. Hurt. Annoyance. Discipline. Worry. Control. She chose control. Mother. This puts us in a hard position. We're only trying to make your life easier. Easier is not always better, Grandma said. Sometimes easier is just quiet. Dad tried a different angle. Don't you trust us? He asked. I trust you to try, Grandma said. I trust me to decide. I trust Kai to bring tea and questions. I trust Marin to bring pie. I trust Nora to tell me when a bird is back at her porch. Everyone does what they're good at. I took the letter Avery had suggested from my folder. Large print, simple lines. Grandma, if you want, you can sign this. It says you're asking for time. It puts the brakes on Sunday without a fight. She read it. She smiled. I like a break, she said, and signed with a steady hand. Mom exhaled like a tire losing air. Dad stared at the signature as if it had insulted him. The pastor cleared his throat. I should go, he said softly. Call me if you want me to bring a casserole for next week. Or a hymn. Bring bread, Grandma said. No hymns, not yet. He nodded and slipped out. When the door closed, the house felt larger. Nora poured tea into fresh cups. I can be a neutral witness when the time comes, she said. Or I can bring Teresa, the retired notary. She knows how to sit still. Thank you, I said. Relief loosened the knot in my chest by a full inch. We'll likely call both. My phone buzzed. Avery again. Saw the pause letter they texted. Perfect. On Monday we'll meet. Bring the red folder, the deed copy, and your grandmother's ID. We'll draft what she wants in her words. Don't argue with your parents, don't explain. Starve the show. I slid the phone away and looked at Mom. This isn't a war, I said. It's a pause. Join it or step back. She stared at the window like it was a television. Dad checked his watch like time might take his side. Neither of them moved. Grandma stood and went to the drawer next to the stove. It sticks. Always has. She pulled it hard and fished out a small receipt yellowed curling at the edges. Paid county recording, it read, with a date that matched the stamp on the deed copy. She placed it next to the tea as if it were seasoning. That's that, she said. Help me cut the pie. We ate at the little kitchen table. The pie was sweet and a little messy, the kind you can't pretend with. Mom didn't take any. Dad picked at the crust like it had done him wrong. Nora told a story about how my granddad learned to whittle pianos out of soap bars during the war. I listened, filed every detail, and felt the floor of this house become solid under my feet again. After dishes, I walked Nora out. The afternoon had leaned toward gold. She touched my arm before stepping off the porch. Your granddad saw you, she said, long before anyone said it out loud. He told me once that you make rooms for people. Don't let anyone make yours small. I won't, I said and meant it. When I went back inside, Mom was gathering the red folder like a cat rescuing a kitten from a puddle. We'll reschedule, she said, if that makes everyone feel better. Not everyone, Grandma said. Me, it makes me feel better. I slipped the safety deposit key into my pocket. I folded the letter and put it in my planner. I photographed the receipt and the deed copy and sent everything to Avery with one line: Monday 10 a.m. your office. I hugged Grandma. Her shoulders felt light. Her eyes were clear. "You hungry, baby?" she asked out of habit. "Always," I said and smiled. On my way out, I paused by the piano bench. It's where my granddad used to hide birthday notes. I lifted the lid without thinking. Inside were sheet music, a dried corsage, and a small notebook I didn't recognize. I opened it. The first page was a list of numbers and names: Mr. Hart's office, the bank branch manager, the county clerk's direct line, a handyman, a neighbor, my name, Marin's, Jessa's. At the bottom, in my granddad's hand again, the line, "If the room shrinks, call the ones who make it bigger." I laughed a soft burst that surprised me. I took a photo of the page and put the book back where I found it. As I reached the door, Dad spoke without looking at me. "You made this harder than it needed to be." "No," I said. "I made it honest." Outside, the light had turned the street to honey. I unlocked my car and sat for a moment with my hands on the wheel. My phone buzzed. Liam. "You're blowing this up," his text read. "Mom's upset." I typed back, "Grandma's not signing Sunday. Respect that." No dots appeared. The silence felt like a truth. I drove to the bank listed on the card and put my hand on the cool metal door. Closed for the weekend. Fine. Monday will come. It always does. On the way home, I stopped at the Lark. Jessa was on a ladder tagging seat 12C with a scrap of tape that said, "Fix me." Marin FaceTimed from the tamale line with masa on her cheek. I told them everything in quick, neat sentences. The deed, the letter, the key, the pause. The way Grandma's voice finally filled the room. Jessa whooped so loud it echoed. Marin dabbed her eyes and pretended it was an onion. We laughed. We breathed. We put new lists on butcher paper. Monday, Avery Bank Clerk. Ask Mr. Hart's daughter for copies. Draft a new POA if Grandma wants one. Limited. Springing. Accounting. Plan Sunday. Our way quiet lunch, no signatures, open windows. The exit sign glowed. The theater felt wide as a sky. That night, I slept like I had returned a heavy book to the right shelf. Morning would bring more work. Paper and people both need tending, but the red folder had lost its power. It was paper again, not a spell. And right before I drifted off, my phone lit the dark. A voicemail, unknown number. I pressed play. "Mr. Stanton," a careful voice said. "This is Dana from the county clerk's office. A gentleman named Hart asked me to pass along that file. L733 includes an amendment you should see. We're closed now, but I'll be at my desk at 8 on Monday. Ask for me." I lay there with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, counting the beats of my heart. The amendment, the missing piece. Sunday hadn't even arrived. And the table had already turned. Monday started cold and sharp. Frost on the theater door. Breath like smoke. I made coffee, stacked the papers in a clean folder, and slid the safety deposit key into my pocket like a talisman. Jessa met me at the Lark with a scarf, a bag of granola bars, and a look that said, "Eat before you forget." Marin pulled up 10 minutes later with pie for Grandma because sugar lowers tempers. We moved. Grandma waited on her porch in a wool coat the color of storm clouds. She had her purse, her ID, and her dignity. I took her arm for the steps. She didn't need it. She liked the gesture. "Ready to make rooms big again?" she asked. "Always." We drove to the county building first. Fluorescent hum, toner smell, floors that make you hear your shoes. At the counter, a woman with a name badge that said Dana looked up, spotted Grandma, then spotted me. "You're Kai," she said. Mr. Hart called. "File L733. She led us past cubicles to a back table. She pulled a box, found a folder, and set it down like it was bread hot from the oven. Inside were copies of the beneficiary deed. I'd seen the recording receipt, and something new, an affidavit of intent signed by my grandparents 3 months after the stroke scare. It was notarized, recorded, and crisp. I read it out loud. Simple lines. No legal poetry. "We want the house at 114 Maple to pass to our grandchildren, Kai Stanton and Marin Flores, in equal shares at our deaths. We may change this if we wish. If any relative arranges papers for us while we are confused or pressured, we want the clerk to note our previous choice and ask us to restate our wishes later." A note in the margin in Mr. Hart's neat print said, "Clerk's courtesy flag added." Dana tapped the margin. Not legally binding on me, she said, but practically I flag your parcel. If someone comes to record a change, we call you and Mr. Hart first. We give you daylight. Grandma squeezed my hand under the table. A good man, she murmured. Your granddad picked good. Behind the affidavit lay a thin letter old paper with that faint, sweet smell from desk drawers. Opal. It began in my granddad's hand. If the room shrinks, slow the table. If someone says it's just paper, ask them to tell you what each line does. If they can't, it is not just. At the bottom, he had drawn a tiny door and an arrow. If anyone tries to hurry you past this door, sit down. I looked up. What's the amendment Mr. Hart mentioned, I asked. Dana flipped to the back and pulled a small sealed envelope from a clipped sleeve. Hart CUPPP, it read. He left this with us to hand to you when you came, she said. He figured you would. We didn't open it yet. It felt personal, like a letter in a jacket pocket you find years later. Dana made copies of everything for me. Marin labeled each sheet. Jessa took photos for a second backup. I thanked Dana. She winked at Grandma like co-conspirators. Tell Mr. Hart I sent my best, Grandma said. I will, Dana said, and meant it. We went next to Mr. Hart's house. Not an office now, a tidy bungalow with a porch full of wind chimes. His daughter Alex opened the door before we knocked. She had her father's eyes, the kind that read you without scaring you. He's in the sunroom, she said softly. Good day for that. Mr. Hart was thin and precise, wrapped in a sweater that looked older than me. He stood when Grandma entered. They clasped hands like friends who had carried the same load once. You kept your line straight, he said to her. I had help, she said, nodding toward Nora in spirit. We sat, sun on our laps, dust dancing. He set a leather folder on the table and slid out 2 items. The first was a copy of the affidavit we had. The second was a letter he'd written to himself and filed in his own system 10 years ago. I drafted the original beneficiary deed after your husband's scare, he said. A year later, someone no names pushed a quitclaim across this table with raised voices and a faster pen. We did not sign. Your husband asked me to record his intent and to leave a paper trail, not to trap anyone, to slow anyone who liked speed more than truth. He turned to me. He also asked me a strange question. How do you choose people for important papers? I told him you pick the person who asks you what you want before they ask what has to happen. He pointed at your name. My throat burned a little. I swallowed and kept my voice small. We found the safety deposit key. He smiled. You'll like what's there. Then, as if it cost him something, he added, if anyone has made promises to banks about a house they don't own, that is the bank's mistake and the promiser's hubris, not your grandmother's problem. He pushed the sealed envelope toward me. This is a note from me to Dana about L733, he said. Open it in the car. It will make sense. We took a photo with him because Jessa is sentimental in the best ways. He waved us off with a 2-finger salute that made Grandma laugh. Men who keep receipts, she said as we reached the sidewalk. God bless them. At the bank, the vault clerk led us to a room lined with safe deposit drawers. Metal smell. Felt-lined shelf. The lock clicked. The box slid out heavy and quiet. I laid it on the table. We opened it like people open time capsules, slow, reverent, a little scared. Inside were duplicate certified copies of the recorded deed and affidavit, a thumb drive in a labeled bag, a short stack of bank statements with large, neat check marks, and a small cassette recorder the size of my palm. Taped to it was a note in my granddad's handwriting for Opal Kai Marin. Play me outside. Jessa peered into the box. Of course your granddad left you a mixtape, she said. Of wisdom. We checked out the box, signed the log, and stepped into the parking lot, sun low and thin. I clicked the cassette door open, slid in the tape, pressed play, and held my breath. The machine whirred. Then his voice, quieter than I remember but steady. If you're hearing this, I love you, he said. I'm saying this where nobody can talk over me. Opal, your hand is small and stubborn. Don't waste it on a bad pen. Kai, you always looked at the ceiling before you answered a hard question. You're probably doing it now.
I was.
Marin, you cry when you're angry and then you get things done. That is not weakness, that is plumbing. Marin laughed and sniffed at the same time. He got to the point. A relative asked us to sign this house over early once. They called it efficient. I called it greedy and lonely. I'm not mad. I'm sad. I know people think houses are money. They are sometimes. But this house is more than a number. It's coffee at 4 a.m. and children under the table eating crumbs, and the place where I learned to whistle through a gap in my teeth. If you want to sell later, sell. If you want to keep it, keep it. Just don't let anyone turn you into collateral for their plans." He paused. You could hear a chair creak and a paper shift. "I left money with Mr. Hart for someone like Avery if you need them. Ask for the envelope with your name on it. I can't fix everything. I can leave you breadcrumbs. The last thing if the room shrinks, step outside. Listen to birds. Then walk back in with the sky on your clothes. It helps." The tape clicked off. Jessa pressed it to her chest like a prayer. We drove straight to Avery's office. A converted bungalow, white walls, plants that looked literally alive water in glass jars like a spa for documents. Avery met us at the door wearing a sweater and a face that said both welcome and business. Teresa, the retired notary from the Lark, sat in the corner with a crossword. She waved her pen at Grandma. Avery poured tea and got us settled at a big table. "Here's my plan," they said, sliding a clean packet toward Grandma. "One, we draft a limited, springing financial power of attorney that names your primary agent, and alternate requires accounting and lists tasks. You keep control until a doctor says you need help. 2, we draft a healthcare directive in your words. 3, we prepare a simple letter to the clerk reaffirming your recorded intent so the file stays warm. 4, we send a friendly note to Ruth the notary that Sunday is off and that any future notarization runs through counsel." Grandma took the pen. "I want Kai as primary for money because he reads before he talks," she said. "Marin as backup because she makes people behave when they get clever. For health, I want Nora first. She's not afraid of doctors. Then Jessa because she shows up with tea and questions." Jessa blinked fast and then wrote something in her notebook like she might forget if she didn't. Marin squeezed Grandma's shoulder. I sat very still and let my heart get used to its new size. We read every line. We changed words that sounded like lawyers wrote them and kept the bones that mattered. Teresa watched the signatures like an owl. Avery kept the pace slow on purpose. No one reached for a pen without first saying why. When Grandma signed, it was like hearing a bar of music land on the right note. Halfway through, Avery's assistant knocked and slipped a card onto the table. "Ruth called," he said. "Your mother asked if a new notary could come today instead." We told her politely that the only paper being signed today is whatever Opal wants here. Avery lifted an eyebrow at me. "Expect visitors," they said. We finished the last page, attached the accounting writer, and scanned everything in triplicate. Avery put the originals in a clean blue folder and gave Grandma a copy in large type. "You say yes or no," they repeated. "No one says it for you." We stepped into the front hall just as the door opened. Mom, Dad, and Liam filled the doorway like weather. Ruth wasn't with them. Good. I'm grateful for small mercies. Mom looked around the office like it had bumped her shoulder. "So this is where the drama is," she said. "This is where the reading is," Grandma answered, voice pleasant as sugar. The drama was at my kitchen table when a red folder tried to be a hurricane. Avery stood to my left. "Calm, solid, welcome," they said to my parents. Opal just finished signing a limited springing power of attorney and healthcare directive with neutral witnesses at her pace. Mom's mouth opened and then closed. She pivoted to me. "You put her up to this." "No," Grandma said before I could. "I put me up to this." Dad stepped closer. "You understand you're making this hard on your family," he said to her. "Liam." "Liam can talk for himself," Grandma said. Liam did. "I've got a line of credit tied to future assets," he said too fast, like he had practiced the sentence, and this was the first time it met air. The bank expects what Avery asked, gentle and lethal at once." He flinched. "A certain windfall," he said. "Mom said we'd optimize. It's just timing." "Liam," I said as quietly as I could, "you cannot promise what you do not own." His face flushed the red of winter ears. "You think I don't know that," he snapped. "You think any of this is easy? The lot's been upside down since COVID. I made it look fine because Mom needed fine, Dad needed fine. I kept making it fine until I couldn't. I'm not stealing a house. I'm trying not to drown." There it was. Salt? Fear? The part of the story that isn't villainy, just panic in a nice shirt. I took a breath and found the line between mercy and boundary. "I don't want you to drown," I said. "I'm not letting you grab Grandma to build a raft." Dad bristled. After everything we've done for you? For me, I said before, the old versions of me, the pleading one, the explaining one, could jump in. You forgot my 22nd birthday. You told me to stay close to help at the lot. You called my life cute while you made lists for Liam. What you did for me was give me the hunger to build a door. Silence. The kind you only get in rooms with thick rugs. Mom looked at Avery like they were a substitute teacher. We'll contest this, she said lightly. Opal doesn't understand complicated forms anymore. She thinks I'm stealing from her. Avery didn't blink. If you believe Opal lacks capacity, you're welcome to file a petition, they said. But you should know I have recordings of her explaining each paragraph in her own words. I have a clerk who will testify, she read and paused. I have a neighbor who has notarized for 30 years who will sit so still a judge will think time stopped. And I have a cassette of a voice that will make any jury cry. They paused. We don't want to fight. We want the truth to breathe. Liam swallowed. Mom's chin tipped up. Dad's jaw worked as if he were chewing the idea of losing. Grandma reached into her purse and pulled out the blue folder. She placed it in Mom's hands the way you hand someone a newborn. Here, she said, read what I want, not what you want. Read it twice, then call me to talk about pie. Mom didn't take it at first. Then she did. The weight surprised her. Paper can do that. We stepped outside into a thin sun. My phone buzzed with a notification. Unknown email. I opened it. A scanned letter with Mr. Hart's letterhead filled the screen. Subject L733, supplemental note. It was the envelope from Dana, now in pixels. Kayat read, If you are reading this, someone tried speed. I left a retainer years ago for 1 hour with any elder law attorney you choose. Ask the clerk to file your grandmother's reaffirmation letter again so it sits at the top. If anyone files a transfer on death deed that contradicts the recorded one, you have evidence of intent and a trail of pause. That won't stop paper. It will slow it. Slowness is where truth lives. At the bottom, in his old black ink, he had added, P.S. I hit a joke in the piano bench. Open it when it's quiet. It's not very funny. Your grandmother will laugh anyway. We laughed right there on the sidewalk like lunatics. The kind of laugh grief makes so you don't explode. On the drive back to Grandma's, Marin read texts aloud. Nora. I can bring soup. Dana filed reaffirmation. Flag refreshed. Teresa. I have time Wednesday if we need witnesses again. The pastor, I am available to bring bread. It sounded like a chorus. Off key. Human. We parked in front of 114 Maple. The porch swing squeaked its thin song. A white envelope sat tucked under the doormat. I slid it free. It was from the court. Notice of hearing it said, Emergency petition to appoint temporary guardian for Opal Stanton, filed by Judith and Robert Stanton. Hearing set for Wednesday 9:00 a.m. My stomach went cold and then hot. Grandma took the paper and read the first paragraph. Her face didn't change. Her fingers tightened just a little. You always told me rooms would get smaller before they got bigger, she said. How small is a courtroom? Small if we let it be, I said. Big if we bring chairs. We stood there with the winter light on our faces and a letter in our hands that tried to shrink a life to a docket line. I looked over at the lark in my mind and saw the exit sign glowing. Not a way out, a way through. Okay, I said. We pivot. I called Avery. They picked up on the first ring. I read the notice out loud. Their voice went crisp. Good, they said. They've declared their plan. We'll respond today. We'll bring your grandmother's affidavit, the recording, the clerk's flag, the neighbor's testimony, the pastor saying he stepped back, and the letter from Mr. Hart. We'll bring pie, too, if we have to. Judges are people. Grandma nodded, satisfied. We'll wear good shoes, she said. If they want a show, we'll give them a truth. I looked down the block where Nora's porch light was already on, though the sun wasn't gone yet, and I felt that click in my chest again. The knot loosening, the room widening, the table turning on its axis. Part of me wanted to drive to my parents' house and shout on the lawn. Most of me wanted to sit with Grandma on the couch, put the cassette on again, and eat pie with forks straight from the tin. I chose the second thing. That's how you build enough softness to carry the next hard thing. We went inside. The kitchen smelled like lemon oil and tea. I opened the piano bench because of the P.S. There was the old soap bar piano my granddad had whittled 2 terrible knock-knock jokes written on an index card, and a folded paper printed with giant letters, "If anyone says this is just how families work, stand up and open a window." Grandma laughed until she wiped a tear with the corner of her sweater. It wasn't very funny. It was perfect. We ate pie, made lists, and laid out the clothes Grandma would feel strong in on Wednesday. Jessa put sticky notes on all the things we needed to grab in the morning ID blue folder, cassette letter, sweater, mints, humor. Marin texted the cousins. No drama, she wrote, just presents. Hearts bounced back from 3 states. Right before I went to sleep, my phone lit again. A single text from Liam. I didn't know about the petition it read. I swear. I believed him. Or I wanted to. Both can be true. I typed, "Then show up Wednesday. Tell the truth." I hit send and watched the dots appear, vanish, and never return. Dot Wednesday came cold and bright. I ironed a shirt because fabric that listens helps me listen. Grandma wore her storm cloud coat and a blue scarf she calls her brave color. We packed the blue folder, the cassette the affidavit copies her ID, mints, and humor. Jessa tucked a granola bar in my pocket without comment. Marin slipped the pie into a tote like it was evidence. We drove. The courthouse smelled like dust and old envelopes. Wooden benches creaked in a rhythm that reminded me of seat 12C at the Lark. A bailiff called names. Keys rang on a belt. Fluorescents hummed. The room was small, if you let it be. Avery met us in the hall. Calm sweater, legal pad like a shield. Teresa, our retired notary, waited by the wall with a crossword folded to 26 down. Dana, from the clerk's office, stood near the back, hands clasped like a person who believes in paper done right. Nora came because Nora shows up. The pastor brought bread. He held it like an apology. Mom and Dad arrived together. Liam came last. He sat on the end of their bench like a question mark. On calendar, the clerk said, "In the matter of petition to appoint temporary guardian for Opal Stanton." We stood. The judge looked like she had removed fire from rooms before. Crisp eyes, pen that tapped the pad when someone tried to sell her fog. The nameplate said Judge Morales. "Appearances?" she asked. Avery introduced us. Mom announced herself with a smile that wanted to arrange furniture. Dad said his name like a dare. Liam spoke so soft the mic barely caught it. "Miss Stanton," the judge said to Grandma, "do you understand why you are here?" "I do," Grandma said. "Clear. Even. Someone filed a paper that says I am a trouble and need a keeper." The judge's mouth tugged like she almost smiled. "Do you believe you need a temporary guardian today?" "I need a good pen and time to read," Grandma said. "I have both." Avery stepped forward. "Your Honor, petitioners seek a rush order to take control of Miss Stanton's medical and financial decisions and to restrain property transfers. They allege confusion. We dispute capacity. We have a recorded affidavit of intent, a clerk's flag neutral witnesses, and fresh documents executed this week, a limited springing financial power of attorney with accounting and a health directive in Miss Stanton's own words." Mom spoke fast. "She's being coached. He chin-tilt at me is manipulating her. We brought a notary Sunday and she refused to sign. She never refuses to sign." "Your Honor," Avery said, "refusing to sign is not evidence of incapacity. It may be evidence of sense." Miss Stanton, Judge Morales said to Grandma, "Tell me in your own words what a durable power of attorney is." "A paper that tells the bank who can sign for me if a doctor says I've lost my marbles," Grandma said. "Mine says Kai first, Marin second, but only for the chores I wrote down, and they have to keep receipts because I like my money to act like adults." The judge actually smiled. "And a transfer on death deed, it says where a house goes when a body quits," Grandma said. "We signed one years ago that pointed at the grandchildren who fix the leaky things. I may change it. Not today." The judge's pen stopped tapping. "Petitioners," she said to my parents, "what evidence do you have of confusion?" Mom gestured, palms open. She forgets names. Grandma tilted her head. "I forgot the cat's name once. He also forgets mine." Dad tried a firmer brick. "She is vulnerable to being influenced by those who flatter her." Avery lifted a document. "Affidavit of intent recorded as part of file L733, they said. Clerk's courtesy flag. The county clerk is present." Dana stepped forward. "Yes, Your Honor," she said. "We flagged the parcel at Miss Stanton's request years ago. Any new recording triggers a call to the listed contacts." We called. Teresa raised a hand slightly. 30 years notarizing, she said when the judge nodded. I sat yesterday. Miss Stanton read every paragraph, corrected our sloppy commas, and asked for bigger type. She signed when she was ready, not before. The pastor cleared his throat from the second row. I excused myself. Sunday, he said. I had been asked to witness and later learned I wasn't neutral enough. I apologize. I brought bread. Set it there, the judge said without looking. The bread went to the clerk's desk like an altar. Avery stayed in rhythm. Your Honor, we also have a statement from Mr. Hart, the retired attorney who drafted the original beneficiary deed after a health scare and recorded an affidavit of intent 3 months later. He anticipated speed being used as a tactic. He set a paper trail to slow any future rush. Alex, Mr. Hart's daughter, stood. My father is ill, she said, but I have his letter and he permits me to summarize. She read a paragraph where Mr. Hart described the earlier attempt to push a quitclaim across a table. He used no names. He used firm nouns. He ended with a line that landed like a gavel. Slowness is where truth lives. The judge turned to my parents. Do you contest Miss Stanton executed these new documents knowingly? Mom took a breath. We believe she is under undue influence. From who the judge asked. Kai, she said, he's persuasive. He makes rooms loud. I make rooms fair, I said before I could weigh it. My voice didn't shake. I bring tea and questions. She decides. The judge looked past me to Liam. Mr. Stanton, she said you are listed as beneficiary on a draft deed that was not executed. Did you ask to be named? Liam swallowed. Mom, did he said truth coming off him in pieces. She said it made sense since I stayed close and handled house things. I mow sometimes. Kai and Marin fix the real stuff. He glanced at us and didn't look away. I didn't push. I also didn't stop anything. I have a line of credit I can't carry. I wanted to believe in a future that paid it off. Thank you, the judge said. Not kind. Fair. The petition alleges Miss Stanton is at risk. I see a family trying to use paper to solve a financial problem and legacy resentments. That is not what guardianship is for. Avery slid our blue folder forward. We ask that the petition be denied. Additionally, we ask for a temporary protective order, no notarizations or property transfers involving Miss Stanton for 14 days without notice to counsel. No one may represent themselves as her agent except those named in her new limited springing POA, and any existing financial institutions engaged by petitioners must be notified of the change. Mom bristled. We're being treated like thieves. No, Judge Morales said. You are being treated like relatives who forgot their lane. She turned to Grandma again. Miss Stanton, do you want any person here to make medical decisions for you today? No, Grandma said. I want Nora if my head fogs and Jessa if my heart breaks. The judge wrote fast and final. Petition denied, she said. Protective conditions granted for 30 days, not 14. We will review in a month if anyone files a motion. Miss Stanton, the court recognizes your capacity and your freshly executed directives. Petitioners are ordered to refrain from initiating new financial instruments in Miss Stanton's name and to provide within 10 business days any records of attempts to do so in the last 12 months. Dad's jaw clenched. We didn't... Sir, the judge said, save it for your accountant. The gavel didn't bang. She didn't need it. Her pen on paper was enough. We exhaled as a unit. The benches breathed. The bread sat quietly on its plate. In the hall, the air felt warmer. Nora hugged Grandma so gently it looked like a bow being tied. Teresa handed Avery a neat list of what she had witnessed. Dana squeezed my arm and said, Good lines. Mom and Dad stood to the side under a fluorescent that buzzed louder than the rest. They looked smaller than I expected and more tired than I wanted. The fighting was different in those faces now. Less edge, more fear. I walked to them, not with heat, with shape. No more small rooms, I said. No more red folders without reading. No more words like just paperwork and simple to shove anyone past a door. If you want to talk, we can. It will be at Grandma's kitchen table. It will be slow. Mom's eyes filled and then cleared. She chose control again, but it was thinner. We did what we thought was right, she said. You did what felt easy, I said. Right would have been asking her what she wanted and hearing the answer you didn't like. Dad leaned on a line he trusted. Family handles family. Then learn what handling looks like, I said. It looks like receipts and pauses and no secrets with banks. He looked at Liam then. The look hurt. It carried the weight of a dynasty that never existed except in his head. Liam stepped between all of us. "I need to say something," he said, voice rough. "I told the bank I had a plan involving the house. I didn't have the right to say that. I didn't think I was stealing. I thought I was using timing. There's a difference in my head. There isn't on paper. I'm sorry, Grandma." Grandma put her hand on his cheek. "Are you done drowning alone?" she asked. He nodded once. "I need help," he said. "Not money, a plan." Avery slid a card out of their pad and wrote a name on the back. "Call this person," they said. "They do restructures for family businesses. No magic. Actual math. If you're honest, they can build you a raft that isn't someone else's living room." Liam took the card like a life ring. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." Jessa joined us with the pie. "Because pie makes halls humane. We're going to Grandma's," she said. "There's tea. There's a cassette tape with a granddad who leaves breadcrumbs. There are chairs that creak like truth." We walked out into winter sun. The sky was a hard blue. The wind nipped and then forgave. We split into cars. On the drive, silence was good. It let the morning set like concrete. At 114 Maple, we gathered in the kitchen. The house felt bigger, not because walls moved, because the lies did. Nora set bread on the counter. The pastor sliced it with ceremony and no sermon. Teresa took the head of the table like paperwork royalty. Avery laid the protective order on the table and explained each line. Slow, clear. Grandma signed the reaffirmation letter for the clerk to keep the flag fresh. Marin typed the calendar reminders. Jessa labeled a new folder only when ready. Liam stood by the sink with his phone in his hand. He dialed the restructure contact in front of all of us. The speaker was on. He said the words I didn't know he could say. "My numbers are bad. I need someone to tell me what to cut and what to keep. I have nothing to put up as collateral except honesty." The person on the other end didn't hang up. "That's how you know you called the right number." The cassette played again after lunch. Granddad's voice filled the room and made my mother's mouth soften despite herself. He said the line about houses being crumbs under tables and whistling with a gap in your teeth. Mom smiled before she could stop it. Dad stared at the far wall and let the sound work a crack into whatever defense he had poured over the years. After Grandma turned to my parents. "We're doing Sunday lunch," she said. "Not signing, eating. You may come if you can use the quiet voice. If you bring a folder, bring recipes." Mom nodded. Dad swallowed an answer and chose none. We walked them to their car. They drove off slow. Not spite, bruise. Liam stayed. He helped me tighten a loose hinge on the screen door. He didn't pose. He held the door steady and let me work the driver. Something like childhood passed between us, but kinder. On the porch swing, Grandma patted the seat. I sat. It whined its violin note. We let it. "You did right," she said. "We did slow," I said. "It saved us." "That's right." Nora waved from her yard. The robin wasn't back yet. Winter is a kind accountant. Jessa texted from the Lark seat 12C, no longer squeaks. "Come test." We went. The theater glowed in the late light. The brass exit sign winked. The seat was quiet now. I sat in 12C and listened to the loudness of nothing. The room held us. Marin ducked in with a tray of empanadas. Teresa wrote "devolved" into her crossword and cackled because the clue had been "returned to a former state." We had. To a truer one. Avery stacked the last of the scans. I filed notice of representation with the bank that issued the line of credit, they said. They'll get our protective order. If anyone so much as sneezes a form toward Opal, it will blow back. "Thank you," I said, "for the slowness. It was all here before I arrived," they said, tapping the blue scarf at Grandma's neck, the cassette on the seat beside me, the knot of Marin's tote, Jessa's lists. I just pointed to the brakes. As evening folded, people drifted out. The room went quieter by degrees. I stayed with Grandma on the stage edge. We watched dust turn to glitter in the projector beam because someone had turned on the lamp without meaning to. The city outside got its blue hour face. I could have slept right there on the boards. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number," I answered. Kai, a woman's voice. Professional. "I'm Mallory with First Plains Bank. I'm the risk officer on Mr. Liam Stanton's credit line. I received counsel's letter. I wanted to give you a courtesy call. We will freeze any reference to 114 Maple. We will work with Mr. Stanton to restructure without family collateral. He called me 10 minutes ago. He was frank. It goes a long way." "Thank you," I said, every muscle unclenching at once. One more note, Mallory said. Your grandfather once refinanced with us. He wrote a note on the back of a payment coupon that lives in a frame in our break room. It says, always pay with truth. Money follows later. We tell new analysts that story. Weird, I know. Small towns. I laughed. That sounds like him. Good luck, she said, to all of you. I put the phone away and told Grandma. She nodded. Men who make frames out of coupons, she said. God bless them too. Later, Mom texted, Sunday at noon, no red folder. Can I bring corn pudding? She attached a photo of the old recipe card I had kept from last year's mailed apology. My chest pinched, then softened. I typed back yes. See you at 12. Small voices. Big table. I hit send. Night fell. The lark turned into a lantern. We locked the doors and stepped into the cold. Grandma tucked her hand into the crook of my arm. The city was as quiet as it gets. It felt like a held note finally allowed to resolve. At home, I made a list because lists shave the teeth off fear. Thursday, take protective order to bank and clerk. Friday, call Mr. Hart to say thank you into the sunroom. Saturday, stock Grandma's pantry and fix the back steps. Sunday lunch, bread, corn pudding, laughter, no pens. I slept. For once, no emergency knocked in my brain at 3 a.m. morning came like a soft drum. I brewed coffee. I checked the blue folder for the 100th time. I sat on the floor with my back against the couch and let the whole week wash through me in frames. Seat 12C, the red folder, the voicemail from Ruth, the envelope from Nora, Dana's flag, Mr. Hart's chimes, the cassette voice saying, bring the sky back in with you. The judge's pen, not her gavel. Liam saying honesty like a second language he might finally learn. We weren't done. Families don't wrap, they weave. But the weave had new threads now, stronger, less likely to snap under the old weight. Before I left for Grandma's, I opened the theater one more time. I stood center stage and spoke into the empty room because sometimes you have to hear yourself when no one else is listening. No more small rooms, I said. No more doors held shut with words like just. We pause. We read. We feed people. We build exits that are really entries. The boards under my feet answered, not with sound. With steadiness, Sunday came soft and bright. No folders, no agenda. I set the table at 114 maple with the good plates because food tastes braver on porcelain. Jessa simmered pozole on low. Marin arranged sliced oranges in a circle like a sun. The house smelled like cumin and lemon oil. The porch swing sang its thin note and then settled. At 11:58, a car door thumped. Mom stepped in holding corn pudding wrapped in a towel like a newborn. Dad carried nothing which felt honest. Liam followed with a paper bag of rolls and eyes that wouldn't settle. Kitchen, Grandma said. All talk starts where stoves live. We moved like tidewater. Mom set the dish down, peeled the towel back, and watched steam rise. She smoothed the corner of the foil the way she used to smooth my hair before picture day. I owe you words, she said. No one answered. Silence is a chair if you let it be. She took a breath. I dressed control up like care, she said, voice low, not theatrical. When your granddad died, I learned that busy hands get praised and busy hearts get ignored. So I kept busy. It worked until it hurt you. I wanted order. I also wanted the version of family where Liam stayed close, and you, her eyes flicked to me, visited, and didn't make me feel small for not understanding your world. That was cowardice. I am sorry. She didn't cry. She didn't ask to be forgiven. She put the apology on the table like a dish we could reach for or not. Dad cleared his throat. I made plans with money I didn't have and called it leadership, he said. I told myself a son who stays is worth more than a son who leaves because it made me feel safe. That was lazy and cruel. I am sorry. The room didn't change temperature. We did. Grandma ladled soup and set the first bowl in front of Mom, the second in front of Dad. Then she served herself, then me, then Liam. Resurrection happens in the order of the spoon sometimes. We ate. It was quiet, not tense, just mouths, busy minds finding new grooves. Halfway through, Liam put his spoon down. I called the restructure person, he said. We ran numbers. The lot can live if I sell the lake house, close the west location, and tell the truth about warranties. I'll take a pay cut and stop pretending we're bigger than we are. I'll need help with a budget that isn't a story. You'll get help, I said. Not from Grandma's deed, from us. He nodded. Thank you. Mom tried to hand him a napkin. He didn't take it. He reached for his own. It looked like nothing. It was everything. After pie, we shifted to the living room because that's where truth sits when it wants to be comfortable. Grandma fetched the cassette. We listened again. Granddad's voice filled the house and made us look like ourselves. When the tape clicked off, Mom laughed at the knock-knock joke we found in the piano bench. Dad smiled like the expression had dust on it. Now Grandma said we choose what to build. I told them about the lark the night it started, how a text that said, "Keeping it small," turned into a room with 100 chairs. How people brought beans and bread and mismatched mugs. How Nora said witnesses are blood sugar and patience. How Teresa can sit so still the room forgets to breathe. How Dana keeps paper clean. How Avery turns slowness into a shield. How Mr. Hart chimes in a sunroom and makes a sentence into a beam. We don't let this be a one-time fix, I said. We make a ritual. Marin looked at the ceiling my habit caught. Monthly, she said. Open table Sundays at the Lark. Doors at 4. No tickets. Everyone brings something or brings nothing and leaves full. We set a longer table every time. We invite people cut from other tables. We keep a chair for whoever needs one. Jessa nodded, and a 10-minute pause at the center. No performances, just quiet. We call it the pause. We name what needs naming. We practice not rushing. Grandma tapped the arm of her chair. Add a wall, she said. A white one. Paint the words that saved us slow the table. People can pin notes, names of those they lost to speed, names of those who saved them with patience. Dad surprised me. And add a box, he said, for receipts. Literal ones if they need help. Metaphorical ones if they need to declare a truth they've been hiding. We'll call it the honest box. No signatures, just witnesses. Mom swallowed. I'll volunteer evenings, she said. I can set chairs, I can pour coffee. I need to learn to serve without steering. Liam exhaled. I can fix things, he said. Chairs, hinges, signs. I'll bring the lot's old shop light and hang it over the side door. We'll call it the back entrance and make sure it's never locked. We wrote it down because ideas spoil if you don't salt them with ink. Open table Sundays, the pause, slow the table wall. Honest box, back entrance light, bread from the pastor, jazz from Uncle Thomas, tamales from Marin's kitchen, soup from Nora when winter sits hard, a chair with a brass plaque for Granddad if someone hurries you sit down. One last thing, seat 12C. I fixed the squeak, Jessa said. Part of me misses it. I don't, Grandma said. The seat squeaked to tell us the room needed oil. We heard it. We're oiled. We decided to mark it anyway, not as a quirk, as a lesson. A small brass tag under the armrest. Listen, that night the Lark held the first open table Sunday. We expected 20. 50 came, then 80, then 120. We opened the balcony. We set cups on the stage. We learned each other's names. The jazz trio drifted in and out like a second heartbeat. The pause came at 5:30. We stood, sat, leaned. 10 minutes of shared quiet. You could hear the exit sign hum. You could hear someone's laugh turn into a sob in the dark and then back into breath. That's the shape of repair. People pinned notes to the wall. I rushed my sister into a mortgage she didn't want. I'm sorry. I signed under pressure. I'm learning no. Thank you to the nurse who told my dad to eat before he signed anything. To Mr. Hart, whoever you are, from a stranger who needed permission to slow down. In the back, the honest box filled with receipts and confessions. One envelope had cash for a neighbor's light bill. One had a note that said, I lied on a form. I will fix it Monday. We didn't police it. We witnessed. The room did the rest. My parents came late and left early the first 2 months. They stayed longer the third. Mom learned to pour coffee without instructing the table on how to drink it. Dad learned to stand at the door and say hello without owning the room. Liam learned to ask for help with a caliper and with a budget. He sold the lake house. He closed the west lot. He placed a hand-painted sign over the office door that read, No hurry deals. He sent me a photo. I sent back a check for new lifts and a note that said, Loan. Terms. Tell the truth in public monthly. Payment. Bring your crew to open table. He laughed. He showed up. Avery came to the second gathering and slipped into the back row. Teresa taught a knot-tying class to teenagers between soup and jazz. Dana brought handouts on how to record your wishes without fear. Nora sat with anyone whose hands shook and told them about the robin that returns every spring. The pastor blessed bread and kept his witness pen at home. We recorded Grandma reading her directives in her own words into a microphone one Sunday afternoon, with the room quiet and the projector painting light across her hair. We put the file on the thumb drive in the safety deposit box. We wrote down where the key lives. We told more than one person. When we finally opened the thumb drive from the box, it held photos: Great-grandma in front of the original porch with a bowl, Granddad holding up a fish with a grin a mile wide, Mom pregnant with Liam, me at 6 with a wrench too big for my hands, Marin on a ladder she should not have been allowed on a page of Granddad's that said, "People think legacy is marble. It's chairs." We printed them large and hung them on wires across the lobby. People lingered there each month, cups in hand, pointing, laughing, swallowing. Our family had a gallery that wasn't a shrine, it was a map. Spring came. The robin returned to Nora's porch. We cheered like fools. We planted herbs outside the stage door. We named the plants for the qualities we needed: patience, gentleness, backbone, curiosity. We forgot to water them twice. They survived. Summer found us sweaty and happy with the doors open and the scent of grilled peppers baked into the curtains. Fall smelled like cinnamon and wood polish. Winter meant more soup and shorter pauses that somehow went deeper. We learned the shape of each season in the way chairs scraped and knives clicked against plates. Not everything softened. Some phone calls still stung. Some Monday emails made my jaw set. A cousin moved away after a fight about an inheritance that had nothing to do with us. Old habits knocked like salesmen. We didn't slam doors. We didn't invite them in. We let them talk through the screen until they left. Practice helps. The court review a month after the hearing was brief. The judge glanced at Avery's update, nodded at Grandma's blue scarf, and closed the file with a penciled checkmark. Petition dismissed with prejudice. She said, "Keep your rituals," and I believed she meant it. By late fall, the Lark's calendar had a new permanent block last Sunday open table. No rentals, no private event trumps it. If Beyoncé had called, she didn't, we'd have offered her a plate and a seat like everyone else. The day the plaque for 12C came back from the engraver, I held it in my palm and felt how small a permanent thing can be. We slid it under the armrest and tightened the screws. Listen, it said in letters that catch the light only when the house is dark. We chose that on purpose. On the 1-year mark, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, we did what we had promised ourselves, lights on, but not as a clapback. As a tradition. People brought dishes that wore histories. A grandfather handed me noodles and said his wife used to bring them to another city before another fight in another family. A kid with a buzz cut sat on the stage edge and told me he was building a bench in our wood shop and wanted to put it on the sidewalk with a sign that said, "Sit if you're tired." I said yes before I remembered insurance. Some yeses have to outrun paperwork. Mom arrived early with corn pudding and stayed to scrape pans. She wiped the counter with small circles, then stopped and said to the room and to herself, "I like the sound this makes." Dad repaired a wobbly table without announcing it. He took off his coat and rolled up his sleeves. He asked Liam how many cars he'd actually move next month and didn't flinch at the answer. During the pause, Grandma stood. She didn't speak. She lifted her hand like a conductor and then lowered it. 10 minutes can be an ocean. We crossed it together. After she tugged my sleeve, "Stage," she whispered. We climbed the steps. The room settled. She took the mic and looked at faces she'd known for decades and faces she'd met last week and faces she'd probably never see again. "This house saved me twice," she said. "The one with the swing and the one with the seats. I will not be hurried past the door to either." Applause didn't feel right. Stillness did. We let it. When the last pan was stacked, when the wall was full of notes, when the honest box had more truths than we knew what to do with, Jessa clicked off the balcony lights. The Lark exhaled. I stood center stage and looked at 12C. Quiet. Ready. Not a warning anymore. A promise. Mom and I rolled the last rack into the kitchen. She rested her hands on the handle and watched steam fade from a tray. "I used to think hosting meant control," she said. "Now I know it means leaving the back door unlocked." "You changed," I said. "So did you," she answered. "You stopped trying to win and started trying to keep rooms honest. That's harder." We smiled at a shared admission that didn't need applause. Later that week, Liam sent a photo, a new sign on the lot's gate, Open when we're ready, not when we're hurried. He captioned it, Mallory says customers like the honesty. Who knew? Mr. Hart's chimes still sound in my head when I cross a threshold I don't trust. Dana's email signatures are a small comfort. It's silly until you've lived a life shaped by stamps. Teresa sends me photos of her crossword with the word steady circled 3 times. Nora texts me every spring, the robin came back. Bring bread. And Grandma Opal with the storm cloud coat and the brave scarf sits by the window and sorts the mail with the precision of a surgeon. She drinks the sage tea I bring and keeps her own pen in a cup that says slow is a speed. Sometimes, very late, I unlock the lark and sit alone in the middle of the house. I don't turn on the stage lights. I let the exit sign glow. I listen. There's a point where a theater feels like a lung. It fills, it empties, it rests. I think about the boy I was building radios that whispered back, and the man I am building rooms that do the same. If you're watching this from a city where the table shrank on you, where a red folder showed up with a smile in a hurry, here's what I learned. Build a room. It doesn't need velvet seats or a brass sign. A porch will do. A church basement. The back corner of a laundromat where a cashier lets you tape up a paper that says, "We will read before we sign." Invite the people who already see you. Ask the ones who don't to sit and try again. Keep a chair for a stranger. Keep a wall for the words that save you. Then practice the 10-minute pause. It will feel silly. It will feel holy. It will change how pens move. A year ago, a text told me to keep it small. Today, I know how to keep it true. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me about the chair you set out for someone who didn't expect one. Tell me what your 12C says under its armrest. If you don't have a theater, borrow mine for a minute. Stand center stage. Look at the empty seats like they're full of faces that will be kinder than the ones who told you to shrink. Say it out loud with me so it sticks. No more small rooms. No more doors held shut with just. We slow the table. We listen. We feed people. We sign when we're ready. We leave the back door open.